Our next speaker, Elfreda Pitt Hetherington, is the head of applied innovation and technology and operations at the RBC Royal Bank. As head of applied innovation, Elfreda is responsible for leading and creating and execution of a portfolio of innovative concepts that create value for RBC's business units. Her team has enterprise-wide mandate to stimulate innovation actively. With a view to what's next, what's new, and what's different, the Applied Innovation Team identifies and validates emerging technologies and opportunities that have the potential to drive client value and differentiate RBC from its competitors. Elfreda is also a member of the Innovation and Strategic Planning Senior Management Team that operates within RBC's Technology and Operations Unit. In her 20-plus years at RBC, Elfreda has been involved in leading several innovative projects and programs within the retail banking, technology and operations, corporate real estate, and head office divisions, including developing one of the first hackathons run by a financial institution in North America. Please put your hands together for Elfreda Pitt Hetherington.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with fellow innovators and entrepreneurs. I'm sure most of you know about RBC as a bank, but I think what you may not know is that RBC is also one of the largest technology employers in Canada. There are approximately 12,000 technology employees that work for RBC in various different departments that look after things like keeping the ATM machines running and also bringing to life new technologies. So I'm wondering if you look on the screen, if any of you recognize any of those items. It's a pretty old ad, but they actually all have something in common, and it's the fact that all of those items have been replaced with one device. So if you look, there is a CB radio, there's a Walkman, there is an old-looking type of phone that might be touch tone, and an old-looking computer. All of that has been replaced with the mobile device that you guys all have probably in your pockets or your purse. And this ad is really only, well, it's under 20 years old, so that shows just how much things have changed. And there is a lot of change happening. It's a really exciting time to be living in the Western world and even outside of the Western world, because there's disruption all over the place in so many different industries. Who would have thought, a few years back that you could actually disrupt the taxi industry? I was in Silicon Valley a couple of weeks ago and foolishly took a regular cab to my hotel, and it cost me $50. And then I found out the next day that there is a deal that Uber has in the San Francisco area where you can go anywhere in the city for $7. So that's a pretty awesome type of disruption, and I'm hoping that we can get it here in Toronto. And then there's the hospitality industry. You can actually just stay in someone's home versus going to hotel. Retail, PCs and laptops, the yellow pages, cameras. There is disruption everywhere in some of the most unlikely of industries. Client behavior has also changed, and now clients and customers are in control more than ever before. It used to be that you were kind of beholden to your lawyer or maybe getting insurance, and now you can see ratings on lawyers, ratings on doctors, ratings on professors. So advice is everywhere, and there is a more informed client now. And the mindset of clients and customers has changed as well. So you no longer have to buy things. So when was the last time you bought a DVD? I had a bunch of friends over for dinner, and their kids were going crazy, and they asked if I had a DVD player so that they could pop a DVD in to quiet them down. And I said, no, I don't have a DVD player, but we can get something on Netflix. And I didn't even realize until the next day that I do have a DVD player. It's connected to the TV, but I never use it. I'm always streaming. So it just shows how the behavior has changed. There's also the Internet of Things. You know, a few years back, the thought of connecting all of your data and things that you do, like your temperature and your heart rate, connecting that into a database had a lot of what I call creep factor. And people would think, why would I want to be monitored like that? But today, now, people readily do that because they realize that the utilization of that data could be to their benefit. There are new models for advice. So there is LinkedIn that can help you if you want to get a job or if you want to hire. There is Amazon that can recommend music to listen to and books to read and things to watch. Then there's Facebook, where you can connect on a whole new level. And I find Facebook a bit fascinating because I went on Facebook primarily to connect with my family. And that is from, 10-year-old nieces to a 75-year-old aunt. And my 75-year-old aunt is on Facebook more than anyone, doing games and updating everything. And she often forgets to tell me what's going on and assumes I know because she's assuming I'm on Facebook as much as she is. So all of these models have really changed behavior. Also, lending and raising money. You don't have to go to a bank to get money anymore. There is PayPal Credit, there is Amazon Lending, there's Lending Club, there's Kickstarter. There are a ton of different avenues. It's actually a really great time to be an entrepreneur because there are other ways in which you can get capital. So that's also changed as well. So in the financial industry, we are going through some very significant changes. It used to be that we thought our key competitors were the other banks in the top 5. We don't think of that anymore. Our competitors are Apple, Google, it's PayPal, because it's those payments technologies that we feel could really disrupt us. And a lot of disruptive technologies are impacting the world of banking as well. There's mobile, there's big data and analytics, because the banks in Canada hold the most data of any type of company, with maybe the exception of the government. Then there is cloud computing and social media. So there's a lot of different things that are changing the world of banking. And we have had some major business shifts. Because the world is now so digital focused, it's impacted the world of finance with a lot of regulatory scrutiny, because we have to be very mindful, because people are trusting us with their money, and we have to be mindful that we are keeping their money and their identity safe and sound. So we have a lot of regulations in place. For us, IT risk management has really beefed up and is a really core component of our technology and ops world, simply because we want to really keep safe and sound and shield ourselves from security threats and cyber fraud. So with all those things that we're facing, the question would be, why innovate? And I would say, why on earth aren't you innovating? Innovation helps to shape the future. And if you don't try to shape it yourself, the future will shape you. If you look at the example of Blockbuster or Kodak, these were key companies. Who would have thought that 20 years ago, Kodak would be a non-entity as a company? If you don't look ahead and try to shape the future and change, then you could render yourself obsolete. So within RBC, we innovate under a variety of different, and for a variety of different reasons, and under various key drivers. One is client value. We want to make sure that we are valuable to our clients and earning the right to be their bank. And to do that, we have to keep up with their behaviors and with their needs. Also, business growth. Innovation can often fuel new opportunities and new models for growth, and also help us to be more strategically agile. We need to be aware of what's going on within the market and with our clients and customers so that we can be agile, and that when we need to, we can pivot to meet their needs. And also, innovation attracts and develops talent. We want to be attractive to high potential employees, and they may not want to work for a bank that is very, very traditional, and our millennial demographic might think that it's boring. So we have to really keep up and stay on our game so that we can attract the very best talent. So within RBC, the way we look at innovation, we take a look at client needs. We also look at our business models, and then we look at how we implement. So on my team, there are 12 individuals, and their mandate is to research and evaluate new ideas and new technologies. So everybody has to be well-read and well-researched, not only in the world of innovation and emerging technology, but also in the business world as well. So we have to keep abreast of the different strategic objectives and pain points of our lines of business and functional units across the organization. That means we have to be aware of their business models, and then looking forward, we also have to be aware of how our models or our proof of concepts can actually be implemented. Because we don't exist just to be theoretical and just to do blue sky thinking. The applied innovation means that it has to be applicable to our internal customers, who are our line of businesses and functional units across the bank. We need for it to be relative to them and for their clients. So there are three key types of innovation. There is incremental, evolutionary, and transformational. So incremental is something smaller. So I think of incremental with the example of the ketchup bottle. If you used Heinz ketchup, 10, 15 years ago, it just came in a traditional glass bottle. And if you were pouring ketchup on a hamburger or hot dog, you flipped the bottle over and you waited 2 minutes for it to come out. And that was part of the brand, that it came out of the bottle slowly because it was high quality. Or if you were like me and impatient, you'd grab a knife and then kind of scoop it out. Well, what they decided to do was put it in an upside down plastic bottle. And that was something very small, but it was a huge marketing play for them and really helped them to up their game. But that was just a small change. So that's incremental. Evolutionary is where we're kind of changing the business. So if you think back to the late 90s, if you had a cell phone, it was probably very large. It wouldn't fit in your pocket. It might barely fit into your purse or your bag. And you certainly couldn't do anything with it except use it for a phone call. You couldn't use it to take pictures. You couldn't use it to text. Fast forward 10 years later, and now it can do everything. And I bet you very few of you actually use it as a phone. I'm guessing most of you are using it for texting or going onto Facebook or Instagram or a variety of other things. So that's evolutionary. Then there's transformational, and that's changing the industry. So I'd referenced Kodak a little earlier. And again, bringing up the mobile device, that radically changed the industry. It switched the way people thought about cameras and thought about film. And it really was a huge game changer. So at RBC, we look at all three different types of innovation. So within my team, we have some key success factors that help us to be successful and drive innovation. And you need to have diverse perspectives. So people ask me how I hire for the team, and I tell them I don't have a formula. It's different each time I hire. I have actually 3 people from my team here today, and they have a variety of different backgrounds. So some are technical, some have a financial background, some are external, they've come from another company, some may have startup experience, and I purposely have my team assembled that way so that we don't have groupthink. I don't want everybody to be thinking like a banker or everyone to be thinking like a tech person. We want to have as many diverse opinions among the team as possible. And we also need to have a future-focused mindset. So we want to think a few years ahead and also have a perspective, an organizational perspective as well. We also need to turn information into knowledge and insights. So often, executives and other leaders will come to us and ask for our point of view on, say, big data or the Internet of Things, and we need to be able to make that palatable and meaningful to them. And we offer that where we might create a presentation or we might do a blog talking about key innovative initiatives that could disrupt their world. It's also very important to have strong sponsorship, and we're very fortunate at RBC to have our CEO, Dave Mackay, who, if you've heard him talk, he always mentions innovation. And sometimes it makes me proud, and sometimes it makes me sweaty because I'm a little bit concerned about what they've cooked up next. But it's great to have someone who's behind innovation, and many of our key leaders are the same in terms of wanting to be more innovative, and that's helping to drive a more innovative culture throughout the organization, and also make our lives easier as well in terms of getting buy-in. Having that sponsorship can also help you with roadblocks and with transition to implementation. So in terms of characteristics of an innovator at RBC in the corporate world has to be creative and has to have curiosity, willing to ask tough questions as well as easy questions to find out why is it like this and why can't it change and why is that a pain point for someone. They also have to be good listeners. So the key to really find out what your client is looking for and what they need is to ask them, to sit down with them, ask them, and get into their world. And that can fuel the next big thing as you see, this is a pain point for someone. I need to create something that can help make their world or their activity or their sales and marketing easier. Also have to have a thick skin. So whenever I interview someone on the team, I always say you have to have a thick skin because there is a lot of rejection and resistance in our job. And there's a lot of failure, but for us, failure is a good thing. I would say of the proof of concepts and test pilots that we do, half of them don't go anywhere. Now, it's for a variety of different reasons. It could be because of political climate, culture, regulatory, financial, and sometimes you'll have a fantastic idea and it's not ready for prime time yet. So one of the examples I give is video conferencing. We had brought video conferencing to RBC about 5-6 years ago, and no one was interested. Only a handful of people really caught on, and today everybody has it, absolutely everybody. On laptops, some have video conferencing units in their office, but everybody has it, so much so that we have a group specifically dedicated to that. So that's where you could have an absolutely fabulous idea, but it just might have to wait until the public's ready for it. And also, humility is very important. On our team, the IP belongs to RBC, not to any one person. So someone may have a fantastic idea that gets traction. It doesn't mean that they are the superstar or the best person on the team. because that can always shift and change. So everything we do is a team effort, and we always give it back to our lines of business. We don't take the credit for it. And then you also have to have a high tolerance for personal risk, because getting out there and recognizing things needs to change and trying to evangelize that change leaves you kind of vulnerable, and it leaves you open to a lot of naysaying and criticism. So you take a personal risk when you try to change something up, and you have to toughen up and ride it through. So within our team, we have 5 pillars of expertise. We do ideation, which is where we create ideas and then develop ideas. And we have a push-pull relationship with our lines of business and functional units. Often we will bring ideas to them and say, based on your strategic objectives, we think that this technology might be a great fit for you. But they can also come to us and say, you know what, I've seen something that Walmart's doing or a bank in Spain is doing. I can't really wrap my head around that idea. Would you be able to do that for me? Or I'm looking for a specific solution but don't know where to find it. And that's where we will launch a proof of concept on their behalf and do a vendor scan and do some research. And we'll either bring it in and then do some vendor demos, or we'll build it ourselves. We'll just build a mock-up of it so that they can see and touch and play with it. And then what we'll do is we bring those demos and house them in our innovation lab that we have downtown, and then invite them in to come and evaluate it along with us. And then we're helping them come to a go, no-go decision. So if the answer is no, then it's great because we failed quickly and now they can move on to the next thing. We can also capture best practices and lessons learned. If the answer is yes, then what we'll do is we'll take it to a test pilot in their environment so that we can ensure that it will be a good fit for them. And if that's successful, then what we do is we have them go into their own project management process, and then we exit and we move on to the next idea, unless they need us to ride along for subject matter expertise. So that's our bread and butter activity. We also do test design and test execution. So if some groups actually have an idea, they have the bandwidth and the resources to launch the idea, but they don't have the environment to do it in, we will offer up the lab to do that, or set them up with a test environment. If, say, they need a virtual server, we'll set them up with that, and then off they can go on their own. And then we also do idea showcasing in the lab. So the lab is open to all of our employees at RBC during regular business hours. And then we also hold about 100 plus events in the lab as well. And we use that space for innovation workshops and seminars and executive touch points on innovation. But we also use it to showcase things that we're working on, as well as things that our partners across RBC are working on too. So they can do some launches through the lab, knowing that there'll be a lot of people going through it so that they can socialize their idea through the lab. And then we also do trends analysis and research. So if a group comes to us and says, we're crafting out a 5-year plan and we'd like to see what the future of banking could look like with regard to innovative technologies, we can sit down with them or maybe join them on an off-site and talk about that. Recently, we had a workshop for one of our groups in RBC to talk about the Internet of Things, what that was and how it could impact their business, but also had a workshop for them where they could sit and brainstorm and come up with some ideas as to how the Internet of Things could impact their business. A lot of people ask me, where do you get your ideas? And we get them from a variety of places. We do a lot of research. We engage with vendors and startups, but we also like to crowdsource our ideas as well. And Jim Miller here is in the crowd from my team, and he's our manager of academic outreach, and he establishes and maintains a lot of relationships with various schools across Canada, and also manages our Next Great Innovator Challenge. So we have been running that program for about 8 years now, and that is where we go to our lines of business and say, give us a real-world problem that you'd like to solve. and one that you might want a millennial voice on. And then we go out to the student community and we challenge them to break into teams and come up with a solution for that challenge. They submit a video and then a couple of pages of documentation, and then we go through all of the submissions, pick the top 5, and then we bring them down to Toronto, all expenses paid, and then have them come into our headquarters, into our boardroom, where they pitch their idea in Shark Tank Dragon Den style, but friendlier, to a panel of our senior executives. For example, our CFO and our CIO. And then they will judge a winner, and then we provide them with a cash prize and also an opportunity for a possible recruitment opportunity. So it's great because we get great ideas as well as an opportunity to spot some excellent talent. We've also launched a hackathon, which we call Prototyping Challenge, because our risk managers do not like the word hackathon. So we changed that and called it a Prototyping Challenge, and that's where we invite technical students to come, and we house them for 36 hours in our Tech and Ops auditorium, and we feed them, water them, we have raffles and prizes, and then they're encouraged to code and develop a prototype, a working prototype that solves a challenge that we issue to them. And again, we judge and get the top 5, and then a panel of executives hears them pitch the idea and then selects the top idea. Then we take those ideas, we go back, we create an insights document that we provide to various leaders to say, here's what came out of this event, and here are some key insights. We will also gather up the ideas and see what we can make of them, and if we can create some prototypes out of them ourselves. We also look to other areas and other industries for inspiration for ideas and partner up with vendors and other research associations as well. So that's just a picture of one of our labs. And what we also do is take our lab on the road. So we are a global company, and there are a lot of employees who may not know what we do or what some of our other partners are doing. So last year we did a national tour where we went across Canada and took a lot of our prototypes on the road with us to showcase what we were working on and some of our other partners were working on, just to give them a flavor of how RBC innovates and what's up and coming in their world. So RBC Connect, this is an example of innovation from a crowdsourcing idea. So one of our Next Great Innovator challenges was around the workplace. And one of the winning ideas planted a kernel of an idea for creating a social collaboration network. And from that idea, we created a proof of concept and did a vendor scan on the different tools that would be available, picked one, and then turned that into RBC's version of Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So we call it RBC Connect, and that is where all of our employees can connect with each other. So you could be in London, and you can be in Vancouver, and you can connect. It's not just for work. We also encourage people to create social groups. So there are photography groups and travel groups and cooking groups, and this has been used for as a really great social collaboration tool, and it's used now for project management, for marketing, a variety of different uses. So wrapping up, the key to innovation in our world is do, learn, do, to just keep trying, and it's all about change and communicating change well. Innovation doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of hard work, and it's also a team sport. And rarely do you hear of someone who just innovates alone. There's always a team of partners and support people behind it. And collaboration is king, and as is diversity of thought. So what we sometimes say is some people make things happen, some people watch while things happen, and some wonder what happened. And I'm sure all of you in this room are in the category of making things happen, so I wish you the best of luck and hope that this could give you a few pointers. Thank you.